I'm going to go off and get my cup of coffee, and then when he's done his story, I'll come back, and I'll be able to eat my chocolate. So listen to Sam and his true story.
Thank you. Now, I wonder if you can remember what we've been looking at the last couple of days. Who's God's chosen king? Can you remember? Shout it out. Yeah. David, fantastic. Now, today in our... Oh, sorry. My Milky Bar senses are tingling. There's something close by. What? Just seeing these. Okay, stop. Now, here's the dilemma I have. I quite like Milky Bar. And I really, really want to eat Milky Bar buttons. That's what I really want to do. Why shouldn't I eat them? Are they Sheriff Roscoe's? Okay, shh. So, I've got two choices, haven't I? I can go my way and I'll eat the Milky Bar buttons. That's what I really want to do. Or, I could go Sheriff Roscoe's way and leave them for her. What do you reckon? What should I do? Hannah, do you want some? Milky Bars on me. There you go. Right, I'll take them later. Was that the right choice? Maybe. Two choices. Maybe I chose the wrong way. I could have gone Sheriff Roscoe's way, but I chose to go my way. Maybe that was the wrong decision. I think it probably was. Although I am still going to take those buttons for myself. Now, yesterday, we saw such an exciting story, didn't we? We saw God's chosen king, David, and he defeated the enemy of God's people. What was that enemy called? Can you remember? Goliath. How tall was Goliath? Was he quite tall? He was massive, wasn't he? Huge. And David defeated Goliath. Now, you can imagine, David became really, really popular with the Israelites. Really popular. Everywhere he went, people were cheering and shouting his name and singing for him, singing, David, 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 David. He was so popular. Everyone in the land loved him. Everyone apart from King Saul. How King Saul became jealous of David. He was like, why are they shouting for David? He's not even king. I'm the king. They should be shouting, Saul, Saul, Saul. But they're not. So Saul was jealous. And that jealousy, it grew and grew and grew until soon Saul hated David. And then that hatred, it grew and grew and grew until eventually Saul wanted to kill David. Now, David heard all about that Saul wanted to kill him before Saul realized. So he ran away. He wanted to get as far away from King Saul as he could. And King Saul, he heard about this, and he set out with all his men to look for David and to kill him. And so began a massive game of hide and seek that lasted years and years. David would run from one place to the next, and King Saul would chase him, looking to kill him. Now, one day, King Saul got some news that David was in a desert called the En-Gedi Desert. This is the En-Gedi Desert today. So, King Saul set out with 3,000 of his men to the En-Gedi Desert to look for David and to kill him. Now, on the way to the En-Gedi Desert, there's quite a long way, and Saul realized that he needed a bit of a rest. So, He found a cave in some mountains, and he went into the cave, and he rested for a little bit. But before we talk about that, I need to tell you about something else. Because David and his men were hiding. Do you know where they were hiding? In the cave that King Saul was going to go in. What was going to happen? King Saul, he entered the cave. David and his men were crouching at the back, holding their breath, absolutely silent. Saul walked in. This is the man who wanted them dead. But he didn't realize. So Saul went down to rest. And then David's men said to him, whispering, David, this is your chance. This is the man who wants you dead, the man who's done so many bad things. This is your chance to kill him and end his wicked reign for good. What would you do, I wonder? David had this dilemma. He could go his way and kill him, or he could go God's way and leave him be. What should he do? Kill him or leave him? Well, David, he got on his belly, knife in his hand, and began to crawl towards Saul. Quietly, really, really quiet. His men held their breath. He got closer and closer and closer, and there he was, right next to Saul. And so he lifted his hand with his knife, and bam! He cut off a corner of Saul's robe and then went back to his men. He didn't kill him. David said to his men, look, killing Saul would be wrong. It's not what God would want. I wouldn't be obeying God. It's not God's plan for his people that Saul should die like this. Now, after a while, Saul, he left the cave not knowing at all what had just happened. And Saul, he got a bit of a way away from the cave, and then David came to the entrance of the cave. And he shouted down to Saul, Saul, Saul! Saul turned around, and David bowed down to him. And he said, my Lord and my King, look at this. I've got a corner of your robe. I had a chance to kill you. But I didn't do that, Saul. I'd never do that. I've done nothing wrong. God, he will punish you for the wrong things that you have done. But not me. That's not what I'm supposed to do. I trust my God to do what is right. And King Saul, you can imagine how he must have felt. He was so relieved. And he said, David, I realize that I have done wrong. I realize that what you have done is fantastic, and I pray that God will reward you for what you've done. And I know that one day, David, you are going to be King David of Israel. Now, I don't know what you'd have done if you were David, what you'd have done in that situation. Saul, the man who wanted David dead, was right there, unguarded, and David had that chance to kill him. But David, he knew he should do what is right. It was up to God what happened to Saul, not David. And although it must have been so tempting to kill his enemy, King Saul, right there and right then, he didn't do it. David knew that he must obey God. You see, God's people don't need a king who will say, shove off God, I'm in charge, no to your rules. They need a king who will say, I will do what God wants, not what I want. Even when it's hard, or might be a bit silly at the time. You see, God's people need a king who will choose to go God's way.